Vera Nagornia exited the bank building, feeling a strange sense of relief. A major transaction was complete. The money from the sale of her premarital condo had been transferred to a deposit account. Now she could stop thinking about it for at least a few months. She pulled her car keys from her purse, quickly checking the pockets of her light jacket. Vera walked the 10 steps to her car, pressed the key fob button, heard the short beep of the alarm, reached for the door handle, and froze. A light touch on her elbow made her turn around. Standing before her was a small girl, about 9 years old, dark-skinned, with huge dark eyes and black hair braided into 2 tight pigtails, a traveler of Roma heritage. She was simply dressed, a faded blouse, a long, colorful skirt, and old sneakers. In her hands, the girl held a familiar leather wallet, Vera's wallet, which she had just dropped. "Here," the girl said quietly, handing over the wallet. "You lost this." Vera mechanically took the wallet, opened it, and instantly flushed with indignation. 2 bills were missing from inside, definitely. She had just received change at the cafe before the bank. There had been exactly $70 in cash. Now there were only $50. "Where did you get my wallet?" Vera cried out, grabbing the girl's shoulder. "Did you take it out of my bag?" "Yes. Give back the money you took." The girl neither flinched nor cried, nor did she try to pull away. She simply looked at Vera with calm, serious eyes, too serious for a child. "I didn't take anything," she said in a steady voice. "I picked up what you dropped and returned it." "Oh, sure." Vera felt a surge of anger inside. The money was missing. "Do you think I wouldn't notice?" The girl stared silently, then turned and took a few steps away. She then stopped, looked over her shoulder, and said quietly but clearly, "Do not eat the dinner your husband prepares tonight." And she ran off toward where a tall, thin woman in a long, colorful skirt and black sweater stood at the edge of the parking lot. An older traveler woman, probably the girl's mother. Vera stood frozen with the wallet in her hands, feeling a chill run down her spine. What was that all about? What dinner? What husband? Where did that girl come from? The tall traveler woman stepped forward, and Vera instinctively retreated. The woman was about her age, maybe slightly older, around 45. Her face was severe, with sharp cheekbones and dark, piercing eyes. She looked at Vera with a heavy sense of judgment. "Why did you hurt Layla?" the traveler woman asked softly, but with authority in her voice. "She picked up what you dropped. She returned it honestly. I saw it, and you yelled at her." "But there's money missing!" Vera felt awkward under the woman's gaze, but stubbornly continued. 2 tens. Count it again," the traveler woman advised coldly. "Maybe you made a mistake." Vera opened the wallet, began counting the bills, and froze. $70. Everything was there. She clearly remembered that a second ago there had been $50, or had she just imagined it? Maybe she simply hadn't noticed the 2 bills folded in half? Her throat tightened with shame. "I'm sorry," Vera managed to stammer out, looking at the girl who was standing next to her mother and still looking at her seriously and without offense. "I made a mistake. Thank you for returning it, Layla." The traveler woman put her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Go to the bench. Wait for me there." The girl nodded and walked away, but the mother remained. She stared at Vera for a long time, examining her as if trying to read something on her face. "About the dinner, that's serious," she finally said. "I asked Layla to tell you that. I heard everything." "What did you hear?" Vera felt her pulse quicken. "What are you talking about?" The traveler woman stepped closer, and Vera caught a faint scent of cheap perfume. "My name is Zara Hasanova," the woman introduced herself. "I'm often here. I sit, watch, listen, read fortunes. People don't notice us travelers. They think we're nothing, but we see and hear a lot." "And what did you hear?" Vera repeated, feeling anxiety mounting inside. "This morning," Zara began slowly, as if weighing every word, "I was sitting on that bench there." She nodded towards a small square beyond the parking lot. A car was parked nearby. A black Ford Fusion. The license plate ends in a 9, I think. Vera felt a sudden chill. That was exactly the car Derek drove. And the number did indeed end in a 9. "A man was sitting in the car," Zara continued. "He was on the phone. The window was slightly open. It's hot, you know. I heard every word. He said, 'I'm cooking dinner tonight. I'll add peanut oil to the sauce.'" She has a terrible allergy, remember? After dinner, she won't wake up. Sue won't have time to arrive, and all her property will be mine. Vera felt the ground give way beneath her. Her heart stopped. Peanuts. She did indeed have a deadly peanut allergy. Derek had known about it since the very beginning of their relationship. She always carried an auto-injector in case of anaphylactic shock, but at home, she relaxed. There, she felt safe. This must be a mistake, Vera whispered, though she didn't believe her own words. You must have misunderstood. I understood everything correctly, Zara cut in sharply. I heard clearly. And that's not all. What else? Vera barely managed the words. I've seen you before, Zara said. Last Wednesday, you came here with that man. You went into the bank together, then came out, got into his car, and drove away. I remembered because you looked happy. He took your hand and kissed you. Vera remembered. Yes, they had been here on Wednesday. They closed a large line of credit they had taken out to grow her husband's business. Derek had been so attentive then, saying that now his business would finally start generating income. And then, Zara continued, I saw that man again about 3 days ago. He was walking in the park just around the corner there. She waved a hand toward a small park that started behind the bank building, with a woman, young, blonde, in jeans and a white blouse. And they had a boy with them, about 5 years old, no older. The boy held the man's hand and called him Dad. Vera felt everything inside her plummet. A boy, a child. She and Derek didn't have children. She couldn't have children after an unsuccessful surgery in her youth. That was her pain, her secret wound that she tried not to think about. Derek had always said it didn't matter to him, that he loved her the way she was, that children weren't the most important thing in life. And now it turned out he already had a child on the side. Are you sure it was him? Vera asked hoarsely. I'm sure, Zara nodded. I remember faces well, especially when I see them several times. It was the same man who was sitting in the car this morning talking on the phone about peanut oil. Vera leaned back against her car, feeling her legs buckling. It couldn't be true. It couldn't. Derek, her husband, they had been together for 6 years. He had always been attentive, caring, reliable. Or was it all a game? Why are you telling me this? Vera asked. What do you want from me? I don't want anything, Zara replied calmly. Layla saw you drop your wallet and wanted to return it. And I thought, if a person so easily accuses someone else's child of stealing, maybe they should know the truth about those close to them? She paused. But if you want to apologize to Layla properly, come here next Wednesday at the same time. We'll be here every Wednesday. Zara turned and walked towards her daughter, who was patiently waiting on the bench. Vera watched them leave, unable to move. Peanut oil, dinner, all her property will be mine. Vera slowly slid into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and sat there for several minutes. Images flashed before her eyes. Her inherited condo, sold a month ago. The large bank deposit. The inheritance from her father, 25% of the shares in a construction company she received 3 years ago. The condo they currently lived in was also her property, bought before the marriage. In a divorce, he would get nothing. The prenuptial agreement was well drafted. Her father insisted on it when she first introduced him to Derek. But if she died, Derek, as the legal spouse, would become the sole heir. Everything, the shares, the condo, the money in the deposit account, everything. Vera took out her phone with trembling hands and stared at the screen. Call Derek, ask him outright. But if Zara was wrong, no. She couldn't call, she couldn't show that she knew anything. She opened her message thread with her husband. The last message from him came half an hour ago. Asterisk. How are things at the bank? I'm making your favorite tonight, shrimp pasta. Missing you, asterisk, shrimp pasta, her favorite dish. Derek always made it with a special recipe, with a white cream-based sauce. Peanut oil could easily be added to it, and she wouldn't even notice the taste until the first bite. And then Vera inhaled sharply. She imagined what might happen. Asterisk, stuck at a friend's place. Asterisk, she quickly typed. Asterisk, it's Lisa's birthday. I completely forgot. I'll be home late. Don't wait up for dinner. Asterisk. She sent it and exhaled. The phone vibrated almost immediately. Asterisk. Okay, sweetie. I'll leave yours in the fridge then. Warm it up when you're hungry. Kisses. Asterisk. Vera read the message and felt disgust and anger. Asterisk, sweetie. Asterisk. He always called her that, tenderly, affectionately. But now, the words seemed like poison. She started the car, drove out of the parking lot, and drove aimlessly just away from the bank, away from the place where her world had been turned upside down in about 10 minutes. Her thoughts raced. Maybe Zara was wrong? What if it wasn't Derek and she had confused something? But the voice inside her, the very voice that always knew the truth even when she didn't want to hear it, spoke firmly and mercilessly. Asterisk. No, it's the truth. You always felt something was wrong with him. You just didn't want to admit it. Asterisk. Vera stopped at a traffic light and closed her eyes. She remembered how Derek insisted on selling the condo. Asterisk. Let's invest the money in the business. Let it work for us. Asterisk. She remembered how he persuaded her to take out the large line of credit. Asterisk. We're family. Everything is shared. Asterisk. She remembered how he was always there when she signed important documents. Caring, attentive, calculating. The traffic light turned green. Vera drove on, not knowing where she was going. She couldn't go home. That was clear. But where then? The phone vibrated again. A message from Derek. Asterisk. By the way, you remember our insurance is expiring? I renewed it for a year, just in case. Asterisk. Insurance. Vera sharply swerved to the roadside and stopped, feeling cold sweat break out all over her body. Tonight, she could have been gone, and no one would have suspected a thing. A tragic accident. A woman with an allergy accidentally ate something with peanuts. Husband is in shock. Ambulance didn't make it in time. The insurance would cover the funeral expenses, and then Derek would inherit everything. The shares, the condo, the money, and go to the woman he was walking with in the park, the one who had his child. Vera sat in her car in the middle of an unfamiliar street and for the first time truly understood her own husband planned to kill her tonight. And if it hadn't been for the little traveler girl with serious eyes who returned the forgotten wallet, Vera would have never known, would have come home, eaten dinner, and never woken up. God, she whispered into the empty cabin. God, what should I do? There was no answer, only silence and the steady hum of cars passing by. Vera took the wallet from her purse, the very one that had figuratively almost cost her life, but ultimately saved it literally. She opened it, looked at the neatly folded bills. $70, all there. Layla hadn't taken a cent. She had simply returned a lost item and delivered a warning from her mother. And Vera had yelled at her, accused her of stealing. I'm sorry, she whispered into the emptiness again. I'm sorry, Layla, you saved my life. Vera started the car and slowly drove on. She didn't know where yet, but one thing was clear. She wouldn't go home tonight, because the home where her loving husband waited with a dinner of peanut-laced shrimp pasta was no longer a home. It was a trap. Vera had been driving around the city for 20 minutes without the slightest idea where she was headed. Her thoughts were jumbled, her heart was pounding, and her hands were trembling on the steering wheel. She mechanically turned right and left, missed traffic lights without noticing the signals, and only by a miracle avoided an accident at an intersection when she almost ran a red light. She needed to stop, calm down, and think. Vera turned into the parking lot of a small shopping center, turned off the engine, and tried to relax by closing her eyes. But as soon as she closed them, the image immediately surfaced. Derek in the kitchen, smiling, stirring something in a pan, adding a pinch of spices, and dropping peanut oil deadly for her into the sauce. Vera sharply opened her eyes and gasped. Panic came in waves, rolling in and receding, leaving behind a feeling of emptiness and unreality. Maybe it was all a dream. Maybe she would wake up at home in her bed next to Derek, and it would all turn out to be a stupid nightmare. But the phone in her hand was quite real. Her husband's message, too. Asterisk, I'm making your favorite. Asterisk. Innocent words that hid a cold-blooded murder. Vera unlocked the screen and opened the gallery. The last photos, a joint picture taken a week ago at a restaurant. Derek is hugging her shoulders. Both are smiling at the camera, a happy couple. A beautiful picture. A lie. She scrolled further. More photos. They are by the ocean 2 months ago. Derek is carrying her across the shoreline. She is laughing. He is kissing her cheek. Romance. Falsehood. Vera closed the gallery and opened her contacts. She needed to talk to someone. But who? Her friend, Lisa? No. She was on a business trip in Calgary right now. Work colleagues, they only knew Derek as Vera's pleasant husband who sometimes picked her up after meetings. She had no parents. Her mother died 10 years ago, her father 3 years ago, leaving her his business inheritance. The business shares 25% of the Horizon Construction Company. Stable income, dividends, growth prospects. Her father had built that business his whole life and then passed it on to her, his only daughter, and to his partner, Marat Klimov, the owner of 75% of the company, an elderly friend of her father, and her godfather, strict, taciturn, but fair. He always treated Vera not just as a junior business partner, but as his goddaughter. After her father's death, it was Marat Klimov who supported her, helped her understand the company's affairs, and taught her how to make decisions. Vera looked at his number on her phone. Could she call him, tell him what happened? But what would she say? Asterisk. Hello, Marat Leonidovich. A traveler woman told me my husband wants to poison me. It sounded like nonsense. Though, what did she have to lose? Vera slowly dialed the number and brought the phone to her ear. Long rings. Vera? The familiar, deep voice answered. Is something wrong? Marat Leonidovich always sensed when something wasn't right, even over the phone. Vera stumbled, not knowing where to start. I need help. Can I come to your place right now? A pause. Short but palpable. Come, Klimov said. I'm home. Thank you. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Vera put the phone on the passenger seat, started the car, and drove out of the parking lot. Now she had a goal. Marat Leonidovich was the only person she could trust. If anyone could help her navigate this nightmare, it was him. Marat Klimov lived in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, in a 2-story mansion surrounded by a high fence and old maple trees. Vera parked at the gate, pressed the intercom button, and a few seconds later heard the familiar drive in. The gate silently opened. Vera drove up the short driveway and stopped by the porch. Marat Leonidovich was already standing at the entrance, tall, gray-haired, with a straight back and a calm, attentive look. He was 63 years old, but looked younger, fit, composed, dressed in neat trousers and a light shirt. Come in, he said, ushering Vera into the house. Tea? Coffee? Nothing, thank you. Vera walked into the spacious living room and sat down on the sofa. I just need to talk. Klimov sat down opposite her in an armchair and nodded. I'm listening. Vera took a deep breath and began telling the story about the bank, the wallet, the little traveler girl and her mother, about Zara's words regarding the overheard conversation, about the peanut oil and dinner, about the boy in the park whom Derek called his son, and about the life insurance that her husband had suddenly renewed that morning. Klimov listened in silence, without interrupting or asking questions. Only once did he raise his eyebrows when Vera mentioned the peanuts, but he said nothing and continued to listen. When she finished, silence hung in the living room. Marat Leonidovich looked out the window for a few seconds, then turned to Vera and asked, Do you believe this traveler woman? I don't know, Vera confessed honestly. But she knew about our visit to the bank on Wednesday. She described Derek's car, the license plate, and she hesitated. And only a very small circle of people know about the peanuts. Derek, my doctor, and a couple of close friends. How could a traveler woman know about my allergy? She could have overheard your conversation sometime before, Klimov suggested. Or Derek himself mentioned it in the phone conversation she heard. Exactly, Vera nodded. She said she heard him talking on the phone about dinner, about peanut oil, about me not waking up and all the property going to him. Klimov stood up, walked to the window, and stood there for a few seconds, looking out at the yard. All right, he finally said. Let's reason logically. Suppose this traveler woman is telling the truth. Suppose Derek is indeed planning to kill you. Why? Money, Vera replied. The condo, the shares, all my property. He won't get anything in a divorce. We have a prenuptial agreement. You and my father insisted on it yourselves when we first met him. Your father and I insisted, Klimov confirmed, because we saw how he looked at you, not with love, but calculatingly, predatory. Vera shuddered. Are you serious? Serious. Klimov turned back to her. I didn't tell you this before because I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe he really loved you, but now, he paused. Now I see that your father and I were right from the start. Why did you keep silent? A hint of resentment was in Vera's voice. Because you were happy, Klimov simply replied. And we didn't have the right to destroy your happiness with conjecture, but now your life is at stake. There's no room for delicacy here, Vera realized. She had been a blind, infatuated fool who didn't see the obvious. And Klimov saw it, and her father saw it too, since he insisted on the prenuptial agreement. What should I do? She asked softly. First, don't go home, Klimov said firmly. Definitely not tonight. And generally, not until we figure things out. I wasn't planning to. Vera showed him the phone with the message to Derek about her friend's birthday. I wrote that I'd be staying out late. Smart girl, Klimov nodded approvingly. Second, we need to check the information, find out if Derek really has a mistress and a child. That's not difficult. I have a contact who handles such things. Reliable? Vera clarified. You could say that, Klimov chuckled. He'll quickly find everything we need. Photos, data, addresses. If this woman exists, we'll know about her within 24 hours. And if she exists, what then? Then we'll take further action, Klimov replied calmly. But first, we need facts. Are you sure the traveler woman saw Derek in the park? She described his car, Vera reminded him. And she said it was the same man who was talking on the phone about peanut oil. She couldn't have been mistaken. Klimov thoughtfully rubbed his chin. So, he has a double life. On one hand, a loving husband who cares for his wife. On the other, a family man who walks in the park with his mistress and child. He looked at Vera. Did you never notice anything strange? Delays at work, sudden business trips? Vera tried to remember. Derek worked as a financial consultant at a large company, and sometimes he did stay late or leave for a couple of days for client meetings. Besides, he started his own business and planned to leave his employer entirely and work only for himself. But was that suspicious? Though for the last 6 months, he started going away more often on weekends, Vera slowly said. He said he was meeting with important clients, doing consultations. I didn't think anything of it. You should have, Klimov stated. All right, this is no time for reproaches. Something else is important. If he planned to kill you today, he's in a hurry. Why? Vera frowned, trying to figure it out. I don't know. We just sold the condo and put the money in the deposit account. Maybe he thinks now is the most convenient time? Possibly, Klimov agreed. A large sum in the account, life insurance renewed, all paperwork in order, a convenient time for a widower to claim his inheritance. He walked back to the window. But there's another possibility. What? Maybe the mistress is pregnant again, or the child is ill and needs money for treatment, or she's simply tired of waiting and demanded decisive action from him. Klimov shrugged. There could be many reasons. The main thing is that he decided to act now. Vera felt everything inside her constricting with horror. So, she was that close to death. If not for the chance encounter with the traveler woman, if not for the dropped wallet, where will I stay, she asked. At my place, Klimov replied immediately. There's a guest room upstairs. Make yourself comfortable. Tomorrow, I'll contact my associate. He'll start the check. In the meantime, you need to act naturally. Message Derek, answer his calls, but don't go home. Invent a reason your friend is sick. You need to babysit her. Anything to keep him from suspecting you know something. Okay, Vera nodded. I'll try. Klimov approached her, putting a hand on her shoulder. Vera, listen to me carefully. If everything the traveler woman told you is true, and I'm inclined to believe her, then you are in a very dangerous situation right now. Derek planned this murder coldly, calculatingly. This isn't an impulsive outburst. It's a thought-out plan. People like that don't just back down. He will try again. I understand, Vera whispered. That's why we must act quickly and smartly, Klimov continued. Gather evidence, contact the police, protect you legally. I have a good lawyer, Eugenia Solodova. She specializes in complex family and criminal cases. I'll call her tomorrow morning. Thank you. Vera squeezed his hand. Thank you for helping. You're welcome. Klimov offered a faint smile. I promised your father I would look after you. I'll keep my promise. Vera spent the night in the guest room, barely closing her eyes. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from Derek. Asterisk, how are things? Is Lisa better? When are you coming back? Missing you so much. Asterisk. She replied briefly, restrainedly, trying not to betray her anxiety. In the morning, Klimov knocked on the door and brought coffee. I slept poorly, Vera admitted. I understand. I contacted Eugenia. She'll arrive this afternoon. Be prepared to tell everything again. Klimov placed the cup on the bedside table. And also, my associate has already taken up the case. We'll have the first results by evening. That fast? He has his methods, Klimov replied vaguely. The main thing is the result. Eugenia Soledova arrived exactly at 2 p.m. A tall, slender woman of 35 with short, dark hair and sharp, keen eyes. She was formally dressed, a dark suit, a white blouse, minimal jewelry. She greeted Vera, sat down in an armchair, and pulled out a tablet. Murat Leonidovich gave me a brief overview, Eugenia said in a smooth, businesslike tone. But I need details. Tell me everything from the very beginning. Don't omit any small things. Vera retold the story, now for the third time in 24 hours. Eugenia listened attentively, occasionally asking questions and making notes on the tablet. When Vera finished, the lawyer stared at the screen for a few seconds, then looked up. The situation is serious, she said. If we can prove intent to murder, your husband faces real prison time. But for that, we need irrefutable evidence. The traveler woman's testimony is good, but not enough. We need recordings of conversations, correspondence, witnesses, something material. How can we get that? Vera asked. To start, we need surveillance, Eugenia replied. Murat Leonidovich has already taken care of that, but besides a private investigator, we will need the help of law enforcement. The police? Vera frowned. Will they believe me? They will believe you, if there are grounds. Eugenia placed the tablet on her lap. I know a detective who specializes in cases like this. Pavel Ilyin, experienced, principled, and strictly follows procedure. If I approach him with preliminary data, he will take the statement and begin an investigation. I see. Vera nodded. So, I just sit here and wait for you to tell me something new. Exactly, Eugenia confirmed. Your job is to act naturally, not provoke your husband's suspicion, and wait. We will handle everything else. Vera understood, sitting and waiting. The hardest part was just waiting while her whole life was falling apart around her. One more thing, Eugenia added. You will have to play a role, pretend that everything is fine, go back to your normal life, take a vacation, but keep your distance from your husband. Invent a reason not to spend the night at home. Maybe temporarily move in with a friend, or stay here at Murat Leonidovich's place under the pretext of a vacation. Klimov interjected, entering the living room. Vera can say she's going to the coast with a friend for a week. Tired, needs a break. Eugenia nodded. Good idea. That will buy us time to gather evidence without raising suspicion. And the apartment keys? Vera asked. If I leave, Derek will be there alone. Exactly. Klimov smiled. Give me the keys. While he's away, my people will install cameras there in the apartment, in his car. We'll record everything. Conversations, meetings, correspondence. As soon as we have enough material, we'll hand it over to the detective. Vera looked at both of them, her godfather and the lawyer, and for the first time in 24 hours, she felt something akin to relief. She had someone to trust. That meant a lot. But for this to work, she had to play the most difficult role of her life, the role of the unsuspecting wife. Okay, she said firmly. I'm ready. What should I do? Eugenia and Klimov exchanged glances. To start, the lawyer said, call your husband. Tell him you've decided to head to the coast with your friend. Starting tomorrow, for a week, let him get used to the idea that you'll be gone. Vera took out her phone, dialed Derek's number, and pressed call. After the third ring, he answered, Honey, how are you? Is Lisa better? Yes, everything's fine now, Vera lied, trying to keep her voice sounding natural. Listen, I was thinking I want to take a trip to the coast with Lisa for a week. I'm a bit tired. I need a break, a pause, short but noticeable. Of course, darling, Derek finally replied, and Vera thought she heard a sense of relief in his voice. Take a rest. You need it. When are you leaving? Tomorrow morning, Vera said. Lisa already bought the tickets. I'll swing by home this evening to pack my things. Good, Derek paused. I'll be home. I'll help you pack. Thanks. You're welcome, Derek replied. See you tonight then. Love you. And I love you. Vera forced out and hung up. Her hands were shaking. She could barely hold back from bursting into tears right there in front of her godfather and the lawyer. Well done, Eugenia said quietly. You handled that. But Vera didn't feel like she had done well. She felt like a traitor to her own life. Though, in reality, he times was the traitor. In the evening, Vera drove home. She was afraid Derek would notice everything from her frightened look. She opened the door with her key, stepped across the threshold, and froze. Derek came out of the kitchen, smiling, tall, slender, with neatly styled dark hair and pleasant features. 41 years old, but he looked younger. An attractive man, caring husband, murderer, darling, finally. He hugged her, kissed her on the cheek. I already missed you. How's Lisa? Good. Ready for a vacation? Vera tried to relax in his arms, but her body wouldn't obey. It was tense. Excellent. Derek pulled back and looked into her eyes. You look a little pale. You're tired. A little tired, Vera nodded. That's why I decided to go to the coast. I need a break. Good call. Derek nodded approvingly. I got your suitcase out. It's in the bedroom. Pack what you need. Vera walked into the bedroom. A large suitcase was indeed on the floor, open and empty. She opened the closet and started pulling out clothes. T-shirts, shorts, light dresses, swimsuits. Her hands moved automatically. Her thoughts were jumbled. Derek stood in the doorway, watching. Take some cash with you. Not just cards, he advised. Just in case. You never know. I will, Vera agreed, without turning around. And charge your phone completely so you can stay in touch. Already charged? A pause. Vera felt his gaze on her back. Heavy, scrutinizing. Are you sure you're okay? Derek asked. You seem strange. Vera turned, forcing a smile. Just tired. Really, a week at the coast and I'll be like new. Derek nodded, but something flickered in his eyes. Doubt? Suspicion? Vera didn't have time to figure it out. He had already turned and gone back to the kitchen. She hastily finished packing, closed the suitcase, and pulled it into the hallway. Derek came out shortly after, holding a thermos. I made you coffee for the road, he said. Drink it hot. Vera took the thermos and felt everything inside her churn with fear. Coffee? What if there was no nonsense? She wasn't going to drink it here. Besides, Derek thought she was going to the coast with her friend. Why would he poison her now? Thank you, she managed. That's very sweet. Derek hugged her again tightly for a long time. Have a good rest. Call me every day. I'll miss you. Me too, Vera lied. She picked up the suitcase, left the apartment, went down to her car, put the thermos on the passenger seat, and took a deep breath. That was it. She wouldn't be coming back here. Not alone, anyway. Vera gave the apartment keys to Murat Klimov the next morning. Did everything go normally? He asked. More or less. Vera rubbed her temples. He acted as usual, caring. He even made me coffee for the road. Klimov took the thermos Vera had brought with her, opened the lid, and smelled it. Smells like coffee, he stated. Nothing suspicious. But I'll send it for analysis just in case. You think there's something in it? I don't know, Klimov replied honestly. But it's worth checking. We have to be careful with people like this. He called someone, spoke briefly, and half an hour later, a man in plain clothes arrived, young, about 35, with attentive gray eyes. Klimov introduced him as a security specialist. The man took the thermos, nodded, and left. Now for the main thing, Klimov said. My people will go to your place. Derek is at work right now. Yes, Vera confirmed. He's at the office until 6. Perfect. They'll have time to install everything. Cameras will be in the living room, bedroom, kitchen, and microphones too. And we'll put a tracker with a recording device in his car. Is that legal? Vera cautiously asked. In your own apartment, yes, Klimov replied. You're the homeowner. You have the right to install security cameras. As for the car, he shrugged. Let the lawyers figure it out later. The important thing is your life. Vera nodded. He was right. Now was not the time to worry about legal technicalities. By evening, Klimov reported that everything was ready. The cameras were installed and working. Recordings were being made around the clock. The files were saved on a secure server. Now we wait, he said. We'll see what he does. And Derek didn't make them wait. On the very first evening, when he returned from work, the camera in the living room recorded him taking out his phone and dialing a number. Hello, he said, and his voice was completely different, not soft and caring, but cold and irritated. We couldn't talk today. She left for the coast for a week. A pause. He was listening to whoever was on the other end of the line. No, Aaron, it's not my fault. Derek snapped. How was I supposed to know she would suddenly decide to go? Her friend got sick, so she decided to take a break too. Another pause. Judging by the silence, the woman on the other end was demanding something or reproaching him. Yes, I know you're tired of waiting, but you'll have to wait a little longer. When she comes back, I'll deal with things as planned. He walked around the room, clearly nervous. Listen, don't pressure me. Everything will happen as we agreed. Just a little later. Another pause. Now the voice on the other end had apparently softened. Okay, sweetie. See you tomorrow night. Give Kirby a kiss for me. He threw the phone onto the sofa and cursed under his breath. She's already getting on my nerves with her demands. The recording cut off. Vera watched the laptop screen that Klimov had brought and felt shivers run down her spine. So, it was true. Everything was true. He really planned to kill her, and he had a woman with whom he discussed it as a normal matter. A woman who pressured him, demanded action, and reproached him for his slowness. Who did he call? She asked, although she already guessed. We'll find out now. Klimov dialed a number, spoke to someone, and a few minutes later received the answer. The number is registered to Aaron Kroftsov, 30 years old, lives in the Southern District, works as an administrator at a private clinic. The mistress, Vera breathed out. The one he was walking with in the park, the mother of his child. Looks like it. Klimov agreed. My man is checking her out now. By tomorrow evening, we'll have photos, data, everything we need. The next day dragged on agonizingly. Vera sat in the guest room, trying to read, to watch movies, but nothing helped. Her thoughts returned to Derek, to his double life, to how easily he had lied to her all these years. In the evening, Eugenia Solodova arrived. She brought a folder with documents and several photographs. Aaron Kroftsov, the lawyer said, spreading the pictures on the table. 30 years old, unmarried, has a son, Kirby, 5 years old. The father is not listed on the birth certificate. Vera looked at the photo. A young blonde woman with a pleasant face. Next to her, a boy, light curly hair, large eyes. And Derek, he was hugging Aaron's shoulders, smiling, happy. So the child is his, Vera whispered. Almost certainly, Eugenia nodded. My associate investigated. So he cheated on me from the very beginning. Yes, Eugenia confirmed. And apparently, he led a double life. With you, legal marriage, status, access to money, with her real feelings and family. Vera covered her face with her hands. How could she have been so blind? What now? She asked hoarsely. Now I pass the material to Detective Ilyen, Eugenia replied. The recording of the conversation, the data on the mistress, the photos. That's enough to start an official investigation. And me? You continue to vacation on the coast, Eugenia said sternly. Under no circumstances should you go home. The detective will begin work. Understood, Vera nodded. Eugenia put the photos back in the folder. One more thing. If the mistress finds out about the investigation before Derek, she might panic and start cooperating, especially if she's told that her child could be left without a mother. Maternal instinct is a strong thing, so she might turn Derek in? Quite possibly, Eugenia confirmed. We're counting on that. Vera looked at her godfather, who had been listening to the conversation in silence. Thank you, she said quietly. I couldn't have done this without you. Klimov walked over and put his hand on her shoulder. "We're not finished yet," he said, "but you're doing well. You're holding up." Vera didn't feel like she was holding up. Everything inside her was crumbling, breaking, and tearing at the seams. But she nodded and tried to smile because there was no other way. The next 3 days were the hardest of Vera's life. She sat in the guest room at Marat Leonidovich's, feigned a happy vacation by the ocean in her correspondence with Derek, and every evening watched the recordings from the cameras installed in her own apartment. Derek lived a normal life. He went to work, came home in the evening, cooked dinner, and watched TV. The perfect image of a caring husband who missed his wife. But every evening, exactly at 9 p.m., he took out his phone and called Aaron. "How's Kirby?" he asked softly, and there was genuine tenderness in his voice. "Has the fever gone down?" Vera listened to these conversations and felt something slowly die inside her. He never spoke to her like that. There was never such warmth, such sincere care in his voice. "Tell him Dad will be home soon," Derek continued. "I'll buy him that toy truck he asked for, the big red one, remember?" Pause. "I miss you too," he said quietly. "Just bear with it a little longer. Everything will be resolved soon. She'll be back the day after tomorrow, and then I'll finish what I planned. I promise." Vera stopped the recording and played it back. Asterisk, "I'll finish what I planned." Asterisk. And Aaron knew and kept silent. Accomplice. "Is this enough for the investigation?" Vera asked Eugenia, who came over the next day. The lawyer listened to the recordings, reviewed the video, and slowly nodded. "Enough to start," she said, "but we need more. Direct evidence, a confession, or an attempted action. So, wait until he tries to kill me?" Vera felt her heart pound even harder. "No," Eugenia resolutely countered. "We will not risk your life, but we can provoke him into a more candid conversation. If he discusses the details with Aaron, if we record a specific plan, that will be enough. How can we provoke him?" "Write to him that you're returning early," Eugenia suggested. "Tell him tomorrow evening that you miss him. You want to come home. We'll see how he reacts." Vera took out her phone with trembling hands and typed a message. Asterisk. "Derek, I miss you so much. Decided to come back tomorrow evening. Lisa is staying a couple more days, but I'm coming home. Will you meet me?" Asterisk. She sent it and froze, waiting. The reply came a minute later. Asterisk. "Of course, darling. I'll be waiting. I'll cook your favorite dish. Kisses." Asterisk. Vera showed the message to Eugenia. "There." The lawyer nodded. "Now we'll see what he does next." That same evening, the camera in the living room recorded Derek taking his phone again. But this time, he didn't just call. He put it on speaker, apparently doing something else simultaneously. And Aaron's voice sounded loud and clear. "Derek, what's wrong?" "She's coming back tomorrow," Derek said, tension in his voice. "Earlier than planned." "Why? Says she missed me?" He sneered. "She has no idea how timely this is. I've already prepared everything." "Prepared what?" Aaron's voice trembled. "Peanut oil," Derek replied calmly. "Refined, odorless. I'll add it to the pasta sauce. She won't feel anything until the first bite, and then anaphylactic shock, respiratory arrest, death. The ambulance won't make it in time, even if I call immediately. Silence long, heavy." "Are you serious?" Aaron finally whispered. "You're actually gonna do this? Did you think I was joking?" Derek's voice held irritation. "We agreed on everything. I get rid of my wife, get the inheritance, and we start a new life, the three of us. You, me, and Kirby. Isn't that what you wanted?" "I wanted you to divorce her." Aaron's voice cracked, not killer. "Divorce won't give me anything," Derek cut in coldly. "Prenup. I'll get 0. But this way, I get everything. The condo, the shares, the money, 25% of the construction company. That's millions, Aaron. Millions. We'll buy a house with that money, provide for Kirby, and live a normal life." "Don't you understand?" "I understand." Aaron's voice was quieter. "But this is murder, Derek. Real murder." "An accident," Derek corrected. "She has an allergy. Everyone knows. The doctors will confirm it. No one will suspect anything." "But what if they do?" "They won't," Derek said confidently. "I've thought of everything. She comes back tomorrow evening. I'll cook dinner. We'll eat. She'll die. I'll call an ambulance. I'll be in shock. I'll cry over her body. The perfect plan. Silence again. I'm scared, Erin confessed. What if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong, Derek assured her. Trust me. The day after tomorrow, it will all be over, and we'll be together forever. Okay, Erin sighed. Just be careful. I will, Derek promised. Kisses. Good night. He hung up, walked around the room, rubbed his hands, and smirked. Tomorrow, he said to himself, tomorrow everything will be decided. The recording ended. Vera stared at the frozen screen, unable to move. She heard every word, every detail. Peanut oil, refined, odorless, anaphylactic shock, death, the perfect plan. He was really going to kill her, cold-bloodedly, calculatingly, without a hint of doubt. Is this enough? She asked hoarsely, looking at Eugenia. The lawyer nodded. More than enough, she said firmly. This is a direct admission of planning a murder with details, motive, and an accomplice. Detective Ilian is already working on the case. I will send him this recording now, and we can act. What will he do? Vera felt her hand shaking. First, they will detain and question Erin, Eugenia explained. She is the weak link, scared, not prepared for serious consequences. When she is told that she is an accomplice to attempted murder and could go to jail, leaving her child without a mother, she will break. She'll testify against Derek, tell everything she knows, and then they'll arrest him. Eugenia folded her hands on her lap. With the evidence, the testimony, the recordings, he won't be able to deny it. Vera felt a knot of anticipation tightening inside her. Tomorrow, Eugenia answered, the detective is already preparing the arrest warrant. They'll pick up Erin in the morning, Derek in the afternoon. By evening, it will all be over. Vera felt ready. Tomorrow. Just one day. One day until this nightmare ended, or a new one began. The night passed in anxious semi-sleep. Vera kept waking up, grabbing her phone, checking messages. Derek had written before bed, asterisk, waiting for you at home tomorrow. Missed you. Love you. Asterisk. She didn't reply. She just put the phone back on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. In the morning, Eugenia called early at 8 a.m. Erin has been apprehended, she briefly informed her. Interrogation is ongoing. She's keeping quiet for now, demanding a lawyer. But Detective Ilian is using the right pressure. He played her the recording of the planned crime. He's talking about a sentence, about her child, about cooperation being her only chance. And what? We wait, Eugenia said. She will break, I'm sure. Vera hung up and started pacing the room. The minutes dragged on agonizingly. She couldn't eat, drink, or think about anything but what was happening in the detective's office. At 10:30, Eugenia called again. She confessed, the lawyer said, a note of satisfaction in her voice. She told everything. How Derek planned the murder, how he discussed the details, how he said that after his wife's death, they would live together. She gave a full testimony. So, they'll arrest him? They've already left, Eugenia confirmed. He'll be in custody within the hour. Vera felt her legs give way. She sat down on the edge of the bed, pressing her hand to her mouth to stifle a sob. It was over. He was caught. At 3 p.m., Eugenia came in person, sat across from Vera, pulled out her tablet, and showed her a document. Derek Nagorny was detained at 12:30 p.m. on suspicion of preparation for murder, she read aloud. He has been charged. Remand in custody has been selected as a precautionary measure. He is currently in detention. Vera listened, unable to believe it was true. And Erin? Erin is facing a suspended sentence, Eugenia replied. She's raising a minor child, no previous convictions, and actively cooperated with the investigation. Most likely, she'll receive a suspended sentence. The child won't be taken away. Good, Vera sighed. I don't want the boy to suffer. He's innocent. That's the right attitude, Eugenia nodded approvingly. And now, the most important thing. The investigation will take about a month. Then the case will be forwarded to the prosecutor's office for indictment approval, then the trial. The process will take another 2 to 3 months, but you won't see him again. You can live in peace and not fear for your life. And how long will he get? For the charge of preparation for murder, up to 7.5 years, Eugenia explained. Considering the aggravating circumstances, mercenary motive, premeditated plan, use of a method known to be life-threatening. 7 years, Vera repeated. Is that a lot or a little for such a crime? It's just, the lawyer replied, he planned murder. If he had carried it out, he would have gotten 15. But this is only preparation. Vera nodded. 7 years her husband would spend in prison for wanting to kill her. And we'll file for divorce, Eugenia assured her. We'll submit the application. The court will review the case. Derek will receive none of your premarital property. 0. Plus, we'll demand compensation for moral damage. How much? Depends on the court's decision. But usually, in cases like this, several tens of thousands of dollars. A symbolic amount, but important for justice. Vera slowly exhaled. So it was over. Derek was isolated. Aaron was testifying. The divorce would be finalized. She would be free. But for some reason, there was no relief inside, only emptiness. Vast, cold, all-consuming emptiness. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you, and Marat Leonidovich, and Detective Elian, everyone. You're welcome. Eugenia squeezed her hand. You did well. You survived. Vera didn't feel like she did well. She felt deceived, betrayed, shattered, but alive. And that was the main thing. The investigation lasted exactly 1 month. Vera gave testimony and all other information she received through Eugenia Solodova, who regularly called and reported on the case's progress. Derek sat in pretrial detention, refusing to admit guilt, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence was irrefutable. Recordings of conversations, Aaron's testimony, the purchased peanut oil found in his apartment. Detective Pavel Ilyin had built such a strong case that the defense had no chance. Aaron Kravtsov, on the contrary, cooperated fully, detailing her 6-year relationship with Derek, how he promised to marry her after the divorce, and how the plan gradually shifted from divorce to murder. She confessed that she was afraid to refuse him, afraid to lose the father of her son. But when she realized she could go to jail and her child would be left alone, she chose the truth. After a month, the case was handed over to the prosecutor's office. 2 weeks later, the indictment was approved and sent to court. Vera attended all the hearings. She sat in the gallery, looked at Derek, who stood behind the glass partition in the courtroom, and didn't recognize the man she had married. He was gaunt, aged. Something malicious and cornered appeared in his eyes. He never once looked at her. Even when the judge read the verdict, find Nagorny Derek guilty of preparation for murder for mercenary motives, sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment in a general regime colony. Vera listened to the words and felt nothing. No relief, no triumph, not even satisfaction, just emptiness. The divorce was finalized shortly after the verdict. Derek did not object, did not demand property, did not try to contest anything, signing all the papers in silence. The court ordered him to pay Vera compensation of $3,000 for moral damages. Vera didn't need the money, but accepted the court's decision without objection. 2 more weeks passed. Life slowly returned to its usual course. Vera returned to work at the Horizon Construction Company office, where she managed her 25% share. Marat Leonidovich was glad to see her again, but didn't ask unnecessary questions. He understood she needed time. One evening, Vera remembered her promise to the traveler woman Zara and her daughter Layla about the Wednesday when she was supposed to come and apologize. She looked at the calendar. Wednesday. Today was Wednesday. Vera got dressed, took her purse, and drove to the same bank where everything had begun. She parked in the same parking lot. She got out of the car and looked around. 2 figures sat by the bench in the square, a tall woman in a long skirt and a little girl beside her. Vera walked closer. Zara recognized her immediately. She stood up, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "You came," she said softly. "So, is it over?" "Yes," Vera nodded. "It's over. Thanks to you." She crouched down in front of Layla. The girl looked at her with serious, dark eyes. "I'm sorry," Vera said quietly. "I was wrong. You returned my wallet honestly, and I yelled at you. Accused you of something you didn't do. I'm sorry." Layla paused, then nodded. "I forgive you," she said. "It's just." Mom says everyone makes mistakes. Vera smiled through tears. Thank you. You saved my life. If not for your warning, I would have... Don't, Zara interrupted. What's done is done. The main thing is you are alive. Vera stood up, took an envelope from her purse, and handed it to Zara. This is for you. $1,000. Zara took the envelope, opened it, and looked at the money. Her eyes welled up. Thank you. This is a lot, she whispered. We were just about to go to my sister's place in the countryside. She's been asking us to come for a long time. She has a big house, a lot of work, and she can't manage alone. They're waiting for us. They even prepared a room for us, but we didn't have enough money for the journey and for the first while. Now you do, Vera said. Go, start a new life. She handed another bag to Layla. And this is for you. New clothes. I didn't know what you liked, so I bought different things. Layla took the bag, peeked inside. Her eyes lit up. Thank you, she said softly. They're very beautiful. Vera stroked her head. Grow up healthy and happy. Zara hugged her daughter, then looked at Vera. And what will you do now? Vera paused. I don't know, she admitted. Live on, I suppose. That's right, Zara nodded. Life always goes on. They said goodbye. Vera got into her car, waved them farewell, and drove away. A week later, Vera made a decision that had been brewing inside her for a long time. She called the adoption agency, found out what documents were needed for adoption, and started the process. Derek had always been against children, saying they would interfere with careers, freedom, and travel. Now Vera understood. He simply didn't want any extra heirs. A child would have complicated his plan. But now he was gone. And Vera could do what she had dreamed of. And so one day, she arrived at the Children's Services office. This is Clara, the social worker said, leading a small girl about 5 years old into the room. Clara Smith. Her parents died in an accident a year ago. Her grandmother couldn't take her due to health reasons. Clara was small, thin, with large gray eyes and light hair braided into pigtails. She stood and looked at Vera cautiously. Hello, Clara, Vera said softly, crouching down. My name is Vera. Would you like me to be your mom? The girl was silent, then slowly nodded. Yes, she whispered. Vera hugged her and, for the first time in many months, felt something warm inside. Not emptiness, not pain, but hope. The adoption process took 3 months. Checks, commissions, documents, interviews. Vera went through it all patiently and persistently. They entered the condo together. Vera showed Clara her room, helped her arrange her toys, and hung beautiful pictures of butterflies on the wall. The girl walked around the apartment cautiously, as if afraid it would all disappear. Is this really mine? She asked. Forever and ever, Vera promised. You are my daughter now. Clara smiled. The first time in all that time, a year passed. Vera sat in the kitchen, drinking her morning coffee and looking out the window. Outside, it was spring, that true spring when everything comes alive after a long sleep. The trees blossomed with tender pink and white flowers. Birds sang so loudly and joyfully that their trills penetrated even the closed windows. The sun shone brightly and warmly, flooding the kitchen with golden light that played on the walls and reflected in her cup of coffee. Vera inhaled the aroma of the freshly brewed drink and allowed herself to relax. A year ago, she couldn't imagine being able to just sit so calmly, without fear, without looking over her shoulder. Back then, every sound made her jump, every message on the phone caused panic, and every thought of the future brought horror. But now there was silence. Not a frightening one, but a peaceful one. Children's laughter came from the next room, bright, sincere, carefree. Clara was playing with dolls, humming something under her breath, a song she had learned at daycare. Vera recognized the tune about the sun and spring. The girl sang softly, but with such passion that Vera involuntarily smiled. 6 months ago, Clara barely spoke. She was silent, answered in monosyllables, and looked cautious. The psychologist explained that this was normal. The child had experienced the loss of her parents, foster care, the fear that a new family might also disappear. It needed time, patience, and love. Vera gave all of it generously, and gradually, Clara thawed. First, she started to smile, then to ask questions, then to laugh. And a month ago, she called Vera Mom, for the first time, not because she was asked, not out of politeness, but naturally, as if it was meant to be. And in that moment, Vera knew that her heart, broken by her husband's betrayal, was capable of loving again. She finished her coffee and looked at her reflection in the window. The woman looking back was different, not the frightened, bewildered Vera who sat in her car by the bank more than a year ago, not knowing what to do. Not the naive fool who believed the lying words and false smiles. This woman was stronger, wiser, and happier. She was no longer just a rich heiress who was almost killed for money and shares. She was a mother. A perfectly normal mother who cooked breakfast every morning, oatmeal with berries or pancakes with maple syrup, who walked her daughter to daycare, kissed her goodbye, and waved as she left, who worked in the office, managed the company's affairs, met with partners, who came home in the evening tired but happy, who cooked dinner, bathed Clara, tucked her in, and read bedtime stories about princesses, about wizards, about good always triumphing over evil. And this was happiness. Real, simple, earthly happiness. Vera recalled Zara's words, spoken a year ago. Asterisk. Life always goes on. Asterisk. Back then, those words seemed empty. How could life go on when everything was collapsing? When the person you trusted turned out to be a murderer? When you realized everything was a lie? She thought of Zara and Layla. She wondered how they were doing now. Had they moved to the sister's place in the countryside, settled in? Were they happy? Vera mentally wished them well. They had saved her life, given her a chance to start over. Vera moved away from the window and walked towards Clara. The door to the children's room was slightly ajar. The girl was sitting on the floor, surrounded by dolls, soft toys, and colorful scraps of fabric. She was whispering something to the dolls, adjusting their dresses, brushing their hair. "Mom!" Clara jumped up as soon as she noticed Vera, running toward her, waving a doll. "Look what a dress I put on my doll. It's pretty, right?" Vera crouched down, examining the outfit carefully. The doll was dressed in a pink satin dress, decorated with lace and bows. "It is beautiful," Vera sincerely agreed, hugging her daughter. "Very beautiful. You are a real fashion designer." Clara beamed with pride. "And you know," she whispered conspiratorially, "when I grow up, I'm going to sew dresses for all the little girls so everyone can be beautiful." "You absolutely will," Vera promised, embracing her. "You can do anything." And at that moment, Vera realized with absolute clarity, yes, the past was terrible. Yes, she had been through a real hell betrayal, fear of death, the collapse of all illusions. But it was precisely that hell that had led her here, to this girl who was hugging her now with small hands and calling her mom, to this new life, free from lies and falsehood, to this simple yet so essential happiness. And she regretted nothing. Not the time wasted in a false marriage, not the fear she endured, not the pain, because all of that was the price for what she had gained now, and that price was worth it.